If it weren't for today's guest, you wouldn't have YouTube on your phone. At least it's fair to say you wouldn't have had YouTube on your phone way back in the late 2000s. Andrey Doronichev, or Andrey Dobry, as he's called, made a big splash in Silicon Valley back then when he led the team that took YouTube mobile. We have him to thank for what's at once become what I call the most valuable tool in the shed when you're trying to troubleshoot a malfunctioning washing machine, and a guilty pleasure of mindless YouTube shorts. Andrey stayed on with YouTube after the Google acquisition as head of YouTube Mobile and director of product management. He left the company in 2021 to try his hand at entrepreneurship, leveraging AI and image recognition technologies as his business mediums. So what's a Silicon Valley superstar have to do with the business of biotech, you might ask? Well, Andrey's latest venture, a startup called BIOPTIC, sits squarely at the intersection of AI and biotech. And if he has his way, it'll create opportunity for biotech builders like you. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Just about everyone launching a new biotech these days claims to sit in the middle of that intersection. Well, if it were anyone other than Andrey Dobry, I'd probably pause before inviting them on the show. But this guy's really done some stuff, and now he wants to do some of that stuff in biotech. So the juice in this episode should be worth the squeeze. I've also asked my friend and colleague Ben Comer, chief editor over at Life Science Leader, to hang out with Andrey and I today. So I'm excited about that. And I suspect you'll be continuing to hear and see more from Ben in the coming weeks. Andrey and
Thanks,
Ben,
Matt.
it's great to have you guys on the show. Great to be together with you guys.
Thanks, Matt. After your introduction, I really want to meet this Andrey guy. Sounds like an awesome person.
Well, you're gonna meet him today, and so is our audience. And I want to start with this this departure from Google. Before we even started getting into the biotech space, what was it that kind of prompted you to move away from Google and start founding these tech startups? Why'd you leave, and what have you been doing since?
Sure. Well, first of all, before I joined Google, I actually had a couple of startups. So I joined Google in 2007 after selling my previous company. And it was a crazy, amazing time to be in tech. And I was extremely lucky to not only be in the forefront of back then emerging mobile internet, but also I had a chance to launch something that lasted, that made sense, even and that makes sense even now as the most useful tool in the shed, as you referred to it. So this app that we started with just a couple of engineers, and then we negotiated, agreed with Google to fund it, and we launched the Nokia version, and then the Android version, and then eventually, I had the privilege to negotiate with Phil Schiller of Apple to launch in the App Store. That one little app went from 0 users to 1 billion users, and it was an incredible once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to be part of that team. But that said, I had an amazing run for 13 years. And very frankly, I just felt like we kind of solved a lot of big problems in tech. And at some point, I found myself sort of not being bored, but feeling like we are sort of inventing new problems to solve, because the actual user pains for information access were solved at large, and at least in the domain I applied my knowledge to. Yeah, it was a good time to move on and see what else is there, what other things I can contribute to this world. And I spent some time reflecting and, and just taking a break after I left Google. And then, it became clear to me that, first of all, it is really hard not to do something, even if you can. And second is that there was happening another revolution in tech, that was machine learning. And that something big was about to happen, and then I really wanted to be at the forefront of this new wave of technology. So I started a company, like a little private AI research team with not very clear mandate. Our thesis was, well, we probably going to build on our strength. My co-founders had years of research experience in high throughput information retrieval systems, something similar to YouTube's screening technology that screens every video when you upload it, and it makes a decision whether it's a video about cats or it's, some violence or some inappropriate material or whatever. It's essentially a system that watches, quote unquote, every video of billions of videos uploaded, and then very quickly decides what to do with it. So that's the content ID screening platform, as YouTube called it. And so we had expertise in those kind of high throughput screening technologies, and we thought that there might be other verticals where this technology might be applicable. So we assembled a team. We raised some capital from outstanding investors. Kleiner Perkins was our lead, and Greylock participated in the round, and many others. So with this team, we started just exploring different hypotheses, and here we are. Turns out that screening technology using AI is extremely useful for bio. So that's how eventually we turned into tech bio company.
Andrey, obviously a number of big pharmaceutical companies have used high throughput screening as a development tool using a compound library. Was that the real connection that you found to biotech? I mean, you could have gone into a number of different fields. You chose bio. Was there some other reason that you were interested in bio and human health, or was high throughput screening and the kind of adaptability between those industries a key aspect of it?
The honest answer, and I guess I'll be giving honest answers today. The honest answer is it's both. Like, one, my personal interests. And I'm over 40 now. When I was 30, I really cared about entertainment and content and games and videos, and it was super fun. And I lived by this mantra that Silicon Valley lived by, which was move fast and break things. And it felt very natural. And for those 13 years at Google, it felt very natural to me. And then, like, by the time I left Google, I realized that I'm passionate about other things now. And one thing I found myself really interested in was health. And you know how I said, like, we ran out of pains to solve in tech industry? Well, in health, there are literal pains for billions of people out there that need solution. And so as a reflection of things that became more important to me at this stage of my life, this entrance into bio field feels natural. But also, the honest answer is there was a bit of luck. And what happened was, as we built our screening technology and we were using it for all sorts of use cases, from assessing digital art and detecting fraudulent artworks, to helping banks and financial institutions to detect AI generated driving licenses when they're being uploaded during know your customer KYC flow, right? So all sorts of things can be solved if you have AI that can literally screen billions of items in minutes or hours. And so we've been approaching different industries and testing our solution in different places. And so I went to a conference, to TED in Vancouver, a couple of years ago. And as I was participating and chatting with people, across different industries and academia who participated in the conference, I met this professor, Dr. Art Cherkasov, who is a professor of drug discovery, spent his life working on small molecules and peptides. He is currently a tenured professor at the UBC. And so as we were chatting, I described what we have. And yes, this is where this connection to high throughput screening came to be, because he explained to me that, hey, actually, like, we're having really hard times now that molecular libraries became so big, like orders of magnitudes bigger. he told me, hey, back when we were screening this program, he was telling me about, we had to screen 2 million compounds. And at this point, there are libraries of like 40 billion compounds that are synthesizable. I have no idea how to screen that, what we're going to do, but probably there's a lot of great molecules out there. So we need new technologies that would be way faster, that would speed up discovery of active compounds among those libraries. And so that was how we decided to try applying our tech for this problem.
That's it strikes me as I mean, yeah, there's luck involved, like you said, but it also strikes me as courageous. I mean, it takes courage to pivot from one industry into any industry. I think it takes a special kind of courage to pivot from an industry into biotech. I mean, that's a pretty significant pivot. What were you? I mean, this is sort of a fuzzy question, Andre, but what were you feeling at the time? Was it just straight confidence in the technology and its application in this setting, or was there any trepidation at all? Like, hey, bio, that's science. Science is a little bit different from bits and bytes and feeds and speeds.
Yeah. To this day, I'm questioning my life choices. No, it was really scary, and it still is. I mean, the complexity of biology is like nothing I've ever seen in my life, and I thought I worked in so much complexity in big tech. So I have enormous respect to scientists and life science industry, and I do believe that there's a reason why so many industries already have been disrupted by tech. But I think tech bio we're just scratching the surface, it's just the beginning, because it's so complex that we needed so much pre-existing technology to make it possible to even approach this field. That said, to answer your question, I have a I have a story. When I came back from this TED, I was intrigued by the idea of applying our tech for drug discovery, and it sounded really cool. The professor, Dr. Cherkasov, was working on a prostate cancer drug. I was like, oh, we can use AI to treat cancer. Isn't it great? Like, it sounds fantastic, right? But truth is, I didn't really take this opportunity seriously at first. I thought it was way too far and way too hard. And at some point, mid last year, I was presenting to one of our investors, to our partner at Greylock, and there were three parts of the presentation, three hypotheses we went after with our technology. And first two made a lot of sense, and I mentioned them to you, like the art detection use case, and we had like revenue and customers. Then actually, it was looking pretty good. We had the second test running with banks and AI generated content detection, which was also showing a lot of promise and made sense, especially given that that was the time when generative AI just started booming. And then the third I just threw in there, and I was like, hey, well, and we also have this third idea that sounds completely crazy, but we could probably maybe use AI to find molecules and help those academia people and researchers in the industry to find drugs, like drugs for cancer. And I presented those three things, and my partner at Greylock, David Thacker, he looked at me and he went, you know what? I think you should do the third one, the crazy one, the AI drugs one. I was like, wait, what? How so? And he said, look, the first two make a lot of sense, and you have good data and good founder market fit, founder problem fit, makes a lot of sense. But the last one is the one that gets your eyes to light up. And if I know anything about early stage startups, it takes a lot of passion from the founder to actually make it to the end, because companies normally run out of stamina way before they run out of money. And therefore, I think this is the actual problem you care about. You should work on this one. Honestly, to me, it was shocking. And even after this conversation, I did not immediately react, but it grew on me. And at some point, we had a very honest conversation with my co-founders. And we just realized that of all the things we could be solving with this technology that we have, and generally, like we could be solving in the upcoming 5-10 years of our lives, that there's nothing more important, nothing more interesting that helping outstanding researchers out there to get to their goals faster and save lives and help people to deal with disease. So that's how we ended up here.
What I mean, that is fascinating. What was, I guess the first question I have for you is what was the reception beyond that initial conversation with Greylock? You know, your eyes are lit up. This is something we should pursue. And then over the course of time, you know, probably in short order, you expose your intent to the biotech industry, the community. You start talking to other investors. You start talking to potential, you know, customers, use cases. I'm curious about what the reception looked like.
It varied. Obviously, I got a lot of people were skeptical, right? Like I just in general, I found that life sciences industry is hard to penetrate for someone who doesn't have PhD in biology and doesn't have all the credentials in academia or in industry. Like, who am I? Some tech guy deciding to build some technology that would apparently replace scientists, which, by the way, I never said I was going to do. What I was saying was like, hey, before that we were plumbers for ad industry, and now we're going to be building tools for scientists. But anyway, the initial reception varied. However, there was a very important thing for us as entrepreneurs, as startup guys. You know, you either see some traction, you see that you are showing some results early on, or you're not, and that's what matters. And what we did, we started running tests, and we first indexed Enamine's 40 billion molecular library and small molecule library, and just started testing in silico our existing screening technology against a couple of targets that our scientific advisor, Professor Cherkasov, had data for. And we just started running all sorts of tests, trying to see if the results do even make sense. And once we started seeing that there is some light and actually looks like there might be some good results, it became sort of irrelevant whether or not people on the outside believe that we can do it. Truth is, we have technology, we know how to develop it, we have a process for building it, and we have brilliant scientists who are willing to collaborate with us, testing this technology and seeing if it can be applied to their programs. That is enough to start. So around this time last year, I did two things. I sent an investor update to the rest of our investors saying, hey, we're pivoting to buy and here's why. And I explained the whole thesis. And two, I discovered your podcast and started listening to it to understand how to approach the industry. Like I was completely a complete newcomer. And of course, another thing I have to say, we are privileged to have the investors we have, especially like Kleiner Perkins, who were the original investors in Genentech at round A, and Brooke Byers specifically of KPCB, who was kind enough to kind of give me a lot of initial introduction to this industry, right? He brought me to Laguna CEO Forum, where I met like a bunch of great people who gave me feedback straight away. And that was very honest, very kind of guards down conversations where people were receptive to the fact that I came from a different industry and I like didn't quite know what I was doing. And those conversations really steepened the curve and allowed us to quite quickly start orienting ourselves, at least initially. And we managed to sign our first deals, partnership deals in Q1 of next year. So Q1 this year, basically, right? So just a quarter after like official pivot, which I think was super fast. And just generally, the speed at which we've been moving since we started BIOPTIC. BIOPTIC is the name of our bio AI platform. The speed at which we've been progressing is quite fascinating. Like at this point, we have 13 therapeutic programs across several partnerships in academia and industry, and 2 in-house programs. And we are progressing rapidly. So I think, when you have some results, it makes it easier to believe in yourself.